All right, hold on. Before you say
Oh.
anything, bitch, let me
Sure.
tell you the rules. Ready?
Yep.
You don't talk over me, or you get banned.
Okay.
You understand? Now I'm gonna walk you through this one by one, very simple, right? You don't got no power to get me banned in here, by the way. I got unlimited power. You understand?
Cool.
Okay, Sondsol. So I'm a fascist, according to you, and yet you're friends with alt-right neo-Nazis. God knows where you got them from. Who somehow somehow know an army of swastika spammers in our Discord chat, and you had a guy spam a Nazi flag, which you saw. You saw him. We saw your eyes look down. Look, in your video, you said there's a red line, and it means it's unread. But when you click it, the red line is still there, which means it's red now. Now, it still has that red line to show you that it was previously unread. Do you think that just because there's a red line there, it means you can't see what's below the message?
I thought we were talking about China, not like
No,
old drama.
what do you mean? Who said we're talking about what?
People
You wanted to talk to me. This is what I want to talk to you about.
Wait,
before we do anything.
Did your chat tell you that you wanted to talk to me? Okay, people came from your chat telling me that you wanted to talk to me, and I guess people were telling you that I wanted to talk to you.
No, this is what happened. Someone linked me that you were talking shit and you were calling me a fascist. So I was like, oh, I wonder what the context is.
Today?
Funny, that guy's calling me a fascist. Then I checked, and then I went back to what I was doing. Then they go, oh, Sondsol wants to talk to you. And I said he has to go through whatever everyone else does. If I feel like dragging him up into the show, I'll do it.
Well, there were people doing it to both of us. They were telling me that you wanted to talk to me about China, and then they were telling you that
if I wanted to talk to you, then why would I make you come into my Discord?
I don't know. That's why I was confused. Why?
Okay, then get your bitch ass out of here if that's all you got to say. Anything else?
China sucks. Suck a big
suck
old
my
cock. Suck a big old cock.
Keep seething. China's rising. China's rising. Nothing you can do about it.
Gorillas and Sons. Oh, I'm a big boy. I'm a big boy.
You sound like a bitch.
My name is InferRed. I'm a big boy.
Yeah. So what?
Yep.
Okay. I am.
Oh, is this going to be another situation where you sit there and you're too cowardly to call?
No, this is my Discord. I just ban you whenever I want.
All right, then do it.
Okay. Any last words?
Too scared to talk about China, I guess. But all right.
Okay. What do you got to say about China? Let's hear it.
China's probably doing a genocide. Let's see.
Anything else?
That's really the biggest criticism I have of them.
Okay, sure. So, prove China's doing a genocide. Go ahead.
Well, there seems to be a plethora of data that even China admits to in their state media of things that they're doing that are negative towards the Uyghur ethnic minority. So,
okay, is that the same thing as genocide?
Would you call the boarding schools that we put indigenous children into in the U.S. and in Canada a ethnic genocide? Where we
historically that was their context, yes.
Yeah, and so I would say that it's pretty similar what they're doing over there, where they're saying, you know, not allowed to use your language. You have to learn this language, and if you're caught using it afterwards, you get in trouble. And
so you're saying you have proof that the Uyghur language is banned? That's interesting.
Well, that seems to be something that the Chinese government is also doing. Like they're saying that they're.
My attention that the Uyghur language is banned. That's news to me. Bring it to my attention. Go ahead. What's the evidence?
Well, they talk about it in the Chinese state media.
Oh, show me.
Let me go grab myself some links.
He's getting the links, guys. Don't worry.
Oh, recording. Yeah. So. Let's see. Let me see if this is too Anglo of a source for you.
No. Please just link it to me, and I'll just review it and see where their primary sources is. I want to see what their methodology is on their own terms.
Well, sure. I don't have like a paste bin of links to throw at you, so I'm also checking out which ones are legitimate.
Oh, you're Googling it, basically?
Well, yeah. I didn't know that I was going to be debating China
so
today.
you're pretty much shooting the arrow and trying to find the target, basically.
Well.
Making an accusation and trying to find evidence to back it up. So it sounds like you were uninformed when you were making that accusation.
Well, I could say all sorts of things where I make things up. There are corroborated stories about people in China that are doing this, right? I don't think it's
They're
nearly
doing what?
as. Huh?
Specifically what, though? You said they were banning the Uyghur language. You couldn't back it up with anything.
I'm. I don't know what you want me to do here, my guy.
I just want you to prove it to me. Prove what you said.
Here, copy.
Simple.
This is the first link on Google. We can go
Sure.
through it
Okay.
together.
You said it first, and then you Googled it. Okay.
Yep.
Good.
Well,
Where can I find it?
I'm DMing it to you right now. Seems like the easiest way. Excuse me? Why did that happen? Oh, there we go.
All right. Chat. It's a surprise what the link is. Ready?
It's Radio Free Asia. I have it up on.
Okay.
Okay.
China bans Uyghur language in schools in key Xinjiang and prefecture.
Okay.
Okay. Listen, Sondsol.
Sure.
Even if I just took this at the headline at face value and said, this is objectively the truth, there's no conflicts of interest, there's no bias.
Sure.
This is simple, plain-faced truth. I'm just going to accept it because Google gave me the source, so it must be true.
Mm-hmm.
Even if I were to accept the worst possible conclusion, that doesn't mean the government's banning the Uyghur language. It means the Uyghur language is allegedly, supposedly banned in schools. Which schools is not clear.
Oh, sure. In the way that we did it to the
So
native tribes here in the U.S.
You see how you made the leap.
Well, hold on.
Saying,
no, but like you wouldn't. Okay, well, would you say then that we didn't do that to the indigenous children here in the U.S. when we, it wasn't illegal to speak, Cherokee or whatever, but they weren't allowed to learn their language from a very young age, so the language died out. That's why there's like 1,000 people that speak Creek or Cherokee nowadays, right? Because we destroyed their culture.
Keep in mind, first of all, that I'm just assuming that this link of yours is 100%.
Well, sure, but don't throw away right out of hand. Because
for example, if I were to throw you a source that is wholly coming from the Chinese government, you would immediately say, "Well, I'm not going to accept that. I'm skeptical." Right? You would. Can I be fair?
I'm saying that you can be skeptical of the link, right? I'm totally fine with that.
So I just want to clarify first that we're just assuming that link is correct when we're entertaining this. But when we're entertaining that, okay, if all the U.S. was doing was that when it comes to the indigenous people, then that wouldn't be enough to say that it was a genocide. But it's the context.
Right, I didn't say that was the only thing that they were doing, was it?
It's the context of the U.S. government's relationship to the indigenous population that defines the meaning of them erasing the culture and the language in the schools. The context in China's case is entirely different.
What would be the difference between the two then for you?
Well, the difference is that there was an actual genocide against Native American population perpetrated by. Yeah.
Wait.
Go ahead.
When I say what is the difference in your mind? I'm not saying.
No, I mean, like there was
because that's begging the question, right?
Like massacres and things like that. Like there was an actual genocide. That's the context.
Well, sure. Do you think that you have to kill a bunch of people in order for it to be a genocide, or?
Well, according to how the UN defines it, not necessarily, but you do have to prove that there's a intention to erase a group, to basically exterminate the group by one means or another. So the accusation of genocide is very serious. But another thing you have to point out, but even the UN's definition is political and heavily contested, and it was created during the 50s. But if we go off the UN's definition, that's what genocide means. You don't just say genocide.
I'm actually like super okay with that line of conversation. Actually, what I'm super curious about, because I've had this conversation over the past couple of weeks with my chat and with other people are jumping in chat, is the biggest contention for people that are like super into China, is their biggest contention the name or the label genocide, or is it any of the claims?
It's a combination of both. A lot of the claims appear to be exaggerated and ridiculous, and that corresponds to the label that there's now when you say there's a Uyghur genocide going on, the first thing ticking in people's head is, what's a Uyghur? It's just some foreign exotic name, and we know about a lot of foreign
Americans don't know anything about foreign policy or anything.
We know a lot about horrible things that happen in foreign countries, so there's a bias for Americans to just accept that there's a Uyghur genocide just because it sounds foreign and it sounds bad.
I don't know about that one. Like that one feels weird. To me, this is the reality that I see, right? Even by China's own admission, there's a lot of things that they are admitting to that I don't think that any reasonable person would be okay with the U.S. government doing, such as, you know, vocational camps where they make sure that they're like teaching them not to speak their own language, right? The absolutely crazy amount of surveillance that's going on over there, the unbelievable amount of things that can list you as being a red flag, right? Like, these are all things like just owning camping equipment, right? This is something that the Chinese government has confirmed, that the list of the red flags is real, right?
Okay, well, two things.
Yeah, go for it.
Sure, two things. The first thing is that the reason we wouldn't find it acceptable in America is because we're Americans. So this is our country, it's our business, and it's what's going on here. We know our country, we have a feel for what goes on in our country. So obviously, you know, in a vacuum, if the US government was just starting to, you know, ban the Spanish, teaching of Spanish in schools, I don't know what the equivalence would be. Yeah, there would be all sorts of outrage, but the context is so different. The difference is that we're familiar. Not only is it our business because we are Americans, and it actually makes a difference what we think about what America does. We actually know the American context. We don't know the Chinese context. We don't know actually what's going on in China. We have no idea about this country with over 1 billion people, beyond the fact that people are spreading this idea that they're
I think that even given the things that they are saying, I don't think that we would accept that here in the U.S., right? If there was a couple of people, and there have been during the beginning of Trump's presidency, right? There were a couple of people that did terrorist attacks in the U.S., right? This is just something that happened. If the U.S. government started, you know, rounding up people that were Muslim and putting them into education camps about like patriotic education, I think that we would also be really upset about that, right? Even if we take China at everything that they're saying at their word, right, about the reasons why they're doing it, the things that they are doing, I think that the context of that even is really like not great.
Sure. Okay. Well, two things. One, again, we wouldn't accept it if it happened in the US because China isn't the US. It's two entirely different countries. And regarding that context, you can't actually compare Muslim terrorist attacks in the US to Muslims in China, because the Muslims that live in China have lived there well before the Communist Party took power.
That would make it worse, though.
They have actual roots in China. Well, I think a more fair comparison is actually with the black population in America. Now, to give you some perspective about these so-called concentration camps, if we just go off on arrests alone, not detentions, but just arrests. In 2017, which was the supposed crazy spike of arrests in Xinjiang that were so disproportionate and insane, there was a total of 227,000 arrests, people in Xinjiang, right? The data doesn't tell us whether they're ethnically Uyghur or Han, but maybe we can just say that most of them are probably ethnically Uyghur. We don't know, right? So let's just even assume the worst thing. That's 227,000 out of a population of somewhere around the ballpark of 30 million, right? In the same year in the US, 2.8 million black people were arrested.
Right. No, I understand that I understand that. What we have in the US, I understand what you're saying. Like what the US does. Oh, sure. Yeah.
Let me further clarify something to give you perspective. It's not the population is comparable, but of the people living in Xinjiang to the black population in America. And you're talking about 10 times as many people.
I understand the US does horrible things with our justice system. I understand this, but we're not talking about the US right now. I'm fine talking about the US at another time.
The US.
Say it again? You cut out.
But you just said we wouldn't accept it if it happened in the US, and it seems like...
Yeah, and we're fighting against it, and people are mad about the justice system here in the US.
Right, but they're not really saying there's a black genocide going on.
Well, right, because just because people are getting arrested, there's a difference between being arrested for one thing and then having, your entire culture stripped away from you, your language stripped away from you, right?
I think
For much lesser crimes than even people are getting arrested for in the U.S. We have rules in the U.S. for. Sorry,
you don't think black people's culture and language was erased? Do you know how they got here, dude?
Oh, well, when they got here, yes. Right? I'm talking about right now.
Okay, sure, but you don't think that systemic racism and the prison industrial complex has disastrous consequences for the development of black culture within the United States?
Disastrous for their culture?
Yeah.
Perhaps. Well, I mean, a lot of black culture has come out of the fact that they are oppressed, right? So we can look at their music and the things that they talk about through art and poetry and stuff like that, right? It doesn't erase their culture. It is incorporated into their culture, right?
You don't think that what they're enduring is a form of repression?
No, I didn't say that.
Well, you don't think it's repressing and the development of an otherwise flourishing culture that, like you're saying that the Chinese government is
I don't think there's any way for us to know if the culture would just explode otherwise. I feel like their culture is very rich already, right?
Well, that's true, but I think it's fair to say that the U.S. is having bad consequences for bad culture in its policies by repressing and engaging in the oppression of black people. I'll give you a concrete example.
Right, but the idea that, well, really quick, the idea that repressing people is the exact same thing as a cultural genocide, I don't think is a fair comparison, because if we're talking about the way that black people are treated in the U.S., sure, we all can accept that they have been oppressed for the entire time that they've been here, right? But we're not right now, right? In the past, we have definitely done this. But right now, we're not saying that you have to speak a certain language or you have to, we're not arresting them for owning camping gear. We're not arresting them for having long beards. We're not arresting them. These are things that are important to
You're making a lot of claims. So first you said...
Well, these are things that the Chinese government have... I'm only going to operate in this discussion off of things that I know that the Chinese government have...
So has the Chinese government engaged in a ban of long beards in Xinjiang?
It's one of the things that can get you red flagged for extra scrutiny or to be thrown into one of the prisons. It's not necessarily.
What I've read based on the supposedly leaked documents is that if someone is exhibiting signs of basically religious extremism, growing a large beard, in context, is one of those. Now, in every context, is that true? No, but it can be an indication that maybe someone is being radicalized. And they should have an eye kept on them or whatever. Well, okay, but that's kind of a leap to say that they're banning long beards. I mean, it's a fact that growing a beard can be a sign of religious extremism.
Sure. So what if there was a extremist movement in the U.S. and this extremist movement, everyone in it wore a very specific kind of Nikes that was kind of popular, right? Would we then feel comfortable banning a certain kind of clothing or something like that?
We do that for gangs. We ban certain gang symbols and we ban gang clothing in schools.
Well, so schools are different than legal, right? Say it again.
What's that?
I think that saying they're like dress codes in schools.
Paraphernalia in schools.
Right, but that's not the law.
Well,
dress codes in schools are different than.
If it got to the point of being a problem, I'm sure they would start passing laws. But the comparison is a little bit problematic in the first place because the reason the U.S. government doesn't have to engage in this kind of uniformization of national culture or whatever they're doing, because it's already uniform at the political level. There's no equivalent among the black population or the Latino population of the level of autonomy, both politically and culturally, that Xinjiang has enjoyed since the founding of the People's Republic of China. And now many people have said in the ultimate and last instance, they don't have sovereignty because they're part of China. And that's true. They don't have full sovereignty, but they do have a high degree of autonomy in terms of how it's run on a day-to-day basis. And an example of this is the fact that there was a high level of autonomy in what they were printing in their textbooks. They were getting funding from all sorts of countries, Turkey, and the Chinese government isn't controlling every aspect of what's going on in its provinces. Xinjiang, and specifically, I suppose the picture that's forming in my head is that the Xinjiang autonomy has grown in a direction that the Chinese government feels it needs to intervene. I actually can't even confidently say that. I'm just thinking of it in terms of you're beginning with a baseline of a profound level of autonomy that no minority in the U.S. would ever be able to dream of, be able to enjoy. Like black people.
Well, I don't know what. Like, I know a little bit about the history of the region. I know a little bit of the history in the past, like 20 years, what might have led up to the kind of things that have led to like whatever you want to call these things, just for the sake of conversation, the like camps and stuff, right? And I just don't think that any of the actions. I don't care about the autonomy or anything like that. I know a little bit about the governmental structure of China. What I'm concerned about is the way that we talk about. It feels like instead of it being actually attacking the points or the things that are happening in China, right? It feels like it's just anything that America does bad and anything China does good. And I think that even if we are socialists and even if like whatever, I think that we should be incredibly critical of, any regime that's in charge of a country, right?
Okay, so I'm gathering it's kind of hard to follow you. There's a lot of kindas and maybe,
Yeah, sorry. Do you want me to restate it a little bit clearer?
It seems like what you're trying to say is that you don't really know anything about China, but you feel like you're so much an authority to speak on it that you need
I
to
know
be
enough about the Xinjiang situation to feel comfortable talking on it.
Right. Okay. Well, but you don't actually know anything about the relationship between the Xinjiang province and the Chinese government, and you don't actually care.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I know that the people in Xinjiang. There's a feeling in Xinjiang that they are not being ruled by a legitimate successor to the last government. That's one of the arguments they use for independence.
Well, I'm just saying you don't actually know much about how China works and how its government works, and I think you just.
I mean, I know about their governmental structure, and I don't know what part that I need to know.
Okay, yeah. So you do know about its governmental structure.
Yeah,
that's great.
Sure, I like to do research and stuff.
So you know about the extent of Xinjiang's autonomy as a province?
I know that they had it was like I don't remember if it was the Xinjiang Autonomous Region or the Uyghur Autonomous Region. Yeah, I know about that, right? But I don't think that that's relevant to what we're talking about.
Why not?
Because I feel like even if they had more autonomy, the fact that now there is, by China's own admission, a lot of Uyghurs being interned into camps to re-educate them, I don't think that that's relevant, or I don't understand why it would be relevant.
China, according to China's view, which you will deny, but I have just as much as right to deny your sources, sure. Same token. According to China's view, these are vocational centers, which also exist in other places in China, that are training the population and preparing them for jobs, basically. They're not really that out of the ordinary as far as how China's government works and how it relates to its population.
Wait, I'm confused. Are you saying that everyone's going to vocational schools all over the place? I'm confused.
There are other vocational schools outside of Xinjiang.
Well, sure. But are they detaining a very, very specific group of people there as well?
I don't know enough.
Well, I do know the answer is no. None of the other ethnic minorities in China right now are being detained at the same rate or for nearly the same reasons as they are in Xinjiang.
I'm guessing that's an inference. Maybe it's a fair inference.
No, I mean, I looked at
it could be a fair inference, but
no, I looked at like data for this.
Okay. So that may be true, but
yeah, go ahead.
maybe that reflects on the level of Xinjiang's development in relation to the rest of China. Maybe it
In what
reflects.
way?
Well, Xinjiang is less developed than the rest. It's less industrialized and it's less modernized than the rest of China.
But why would that lead to so many Uyghur Muslims being detained?
Well, to play the devil's advocate, it might be because they need the necessary skills and knowledge and training to be able to participate in the modern job.
But that's not what China is saying, though.
Okay, what are they saying?
They're saying that there's insurrectionist beliefs and that they are, like, supportive of independence and of terrorist groups, right?
No, well, it's a combination of both. China also may be trying to address the possibility of separatistic and
well, that was the primary reason that I've seen them put out there, is that they are only doing this to people.
To be fair, though, I don't.
The same thing that you said earlier.
Yeah, I don't doubt that's the primary reason you've seen, because the primary spin of the story, as you've seen it, is that there's a Uyghur genocide.
From the Chinese government, though.
But the Chinese government isn't only but you're not going directly to the source of the Chinese government to be able to fairly assess what it's saying about the situation. You're going to secondary sources who are citing those primary sources selectively.
You're saying that China is picking its own sources selectively? Sorry, I'm not sure if I'm following.
Secondary sources that you're getting this stuff from are selectively choosing documents from the Chinese government to.
No, this is like Chinese state media.
Okay, so you know the extent to which the proportion of which the Chinese state media is focusing only on the aspect of separatism and religious extremism.
I figured when I looked into this that it would be less.
Do you speak Mandarin?
I mean, it's translated, and they have the international branch of their state media, so it's like Chinese translations, like the government translating their own news source. So I'd assume that it's not Western propaganda.
Wait a moment. The international news that's in English in China is focusing on that aspect because that's what's being heavily reported in the West. So they're trying to dispel a lot of the things being said specifically about that. But you haven't actually proven to me that you've actually arrived at a necessary level of knowledge to know whether the Chinese government is mainly spinning it in terms of combating religious extremism and separatism rather than integrating the population.
So do you think that it's the reason that they are spinning it, that it's to combat religious extremism, is because they think that everyone would think it would be horrible if they imprisoned people to learn how to do a certain trade without cause? Is that what you're saying?
I think you're confused right now. I'm trying to say there's a lot of reasons why there's vocational centers in Xinjiang.
Right. But they're like the only two reasons I could think of for that, right, is either by your admission that they're trying to treat people or like teach people how to like work in a modern country, or by their admission to combat extremism. So either way, those things would be really ghoulish.
But why couldn't it be both? I can give you an example of why.
But either way, it would be bad.
But I can give you an example of why it could be both. For example,
But even if it's both, it's bad. That's the problem.
Are you finished, or can I talk? Or
I just want you to admit that if we were imprisoning people randomly that were just like high school dropouts, right, and we started imprisoning them and teaching them how to weld, that would be an imposition of their rights, correct?
Well, America works differently than China, so in the American context, that does sound pretty horrible, admittedly, but you would have to presuppose the same level of acquaintance with Chinese society as you do with American society to arrive at that judgment. And
I think that in any context, I would not want people to be imprisoned against their will to learn how to weld.
Well, I suppose, but I think your any context is pretty much just America, because that's all you know.
What context would it be acceptable to imprison someone to teach them how to weld for no reason?
Well, you just said for no reason, so I guess no context.
Okay, so let's move it closer to this situation. Under what country's context would it be acceptable for someone to imprison someone based off of their ethnic background to teach them a vocation against their will.
I haven't actually had any data tell me that China has a policy of detaining people strictly based on their ethnic background. And also, vocational schools, according to the Chinese government, since you are using that as your source, are voluntary. They're not actually forms of imprisonment. But admittedly, in China, the way China works is that they don't have a view of unconditional individual freedom. So it's just not how their society works. And that's true for many other societies.
Yeah, but those are bad societies if you don't have freedoms to choose what you do or what you like. I don't understand why we would stand this country if they get to choose what you do for your living, right? If you don't have any choice in, like, if you are like particularly talented at, I don't know, if you're like particularly talented at teaching, right? You're a very, very good teacher and you know a lot about math. And then the government comes in and puts you in a facility and teaches you how to, I don't know, fix machines. And you're like, that's the only thing that you're allowed to do. Then that's also a bad thing, even if it's a like based epic socialist country.
Well, okay. Well, two things. No one's talking about standing anything. I don't know what you mean by that. That's what you said.
Well, okay, go ahead.
Well, can I go ahead? Second thing is that I think, I don't know if you have a level of self-awareness for this to make sense to you, but when you're saying that, I think it would be bad because it would, because the teacher should teach. Like, you don't think China has meritocratic systems that deal with that? I mean, do you really?
Well, you're telling me, right?
Let me finish. Yeah. Just because individuals don't have unconditional freedom to do whatever they want in Chinese society doesn't mean that the government acts arbitrarily in relation to them. And it doesn't mean that the relation between the government and the people is just one-sided. It's also double-sided. Individuals do impact, ultimately, how the government relates to them, but it's a two-sided affair. Now, someone in my chat is spamming this, so it's a good point. I'll bring it up. And stop spamming, dude. I'm going to time you out. How many talented people in America can afford to get the education that they want and they need? I think your point's kind of ridiculous.
Well, again, what I'm talking about is not affordability of education. I'm talking about being forced to do something against your will. All right. So I think that's a ridiculous comparison.
A vocational training center doesn't force you to have a certain job against your will. It just trains you and equips you to have the necessary skills to enter the job market in the first place. Now, what job?
But if you're going into this vocational school against your will, I think that is a bad thing.
Well, I don't know that it's being forced. I think the context from what I've heard of it being forced was if people who are sentenced to actual prisons in China also have the opportunity to use the vocational programs, and similar systems exist in both the United States and throughout Western Europe.
I'm sorry, can you say that last half of that sentence again?
Yeah,
what about Western Europe? Sorry, I need to minimize my chat.
Yeah, prisons in the U.S. and Western Europe have vocational.
Sure. Yes. Right. Again, but we're talking about people who have not necessarily committed crimes, right? The Chinese government, they have admitted to the absolute amazing amount of surveillance that people in the Xinjiang region are having to go through, including, right, requiring specific groups of people, namely the Uyghur Muslims, to have to download a kind of software onto their phone so that the government knows exactly what's on their phone at all times. If a Uyghur Muslim gets stopped by the police, they can have their phone confiscated and searched through by the policeman, right? All these things are things that I think are not good. Yeah. And if they are caught with anything that is not 100% kosher with the Chinese government, they can be taken to a vocational camp.
Okay, well, two things. The first thing is that mass surveillance isn't genocide. Okay.
Mass surveillance with the purpose of getting people to go to imprison people in like concentration camps is genocide, though.
Is that why they have mass surveillance in Xinjiang? Because they have mass surveillance throughout all of China.
I know, but there's evidence from Chinese economic sources, right, that shows that there has been an unbelievable uptick in the amount of surveillance infrastructure that's been put into Xinjiang.
There is.
Yeah.
No one's denying that there is. Of
Right.
course,
There's more in Xinjiang.
But the reason for that is because there's an issue of religious extremism and separatism in Xinjiang, as evidenced by the, how much was it, 1,000 or over 1,000 Uyghurs that were found in the ranks of ISIS within Syria. So
this is the problem that we've run into like 4 or 5 times in this conversation. We've run into the conversation where it is, well, it's not mostly because of religious extremism, but it is mostly because of religious extremism. Well, it's mostly because people don't have the necessary jobs training in order to enter the workforce. Well, it's mostly because of that. Well, it's not mostly because of that. If it's so incoherent for why people are being shipped off into these camps, I think that China needs to be incredibly explicitly clear why it seems to be very consistent with genocide, right? Would you not agree? Oh, internet died.
Okay, here we go.
Oh, sorry, my internet died. What was the last thing you heard me say?
The last thing I heard you say was sounded very confused, and I asked you if you were okay. And another question, Sondsol, I have for you is, how come every time I talk to you, I get these people who spam penises in my chat?
Well, I have people that are spamming grills and sons in my chat, so I think that it's a mutually assured destruction thing.
Those aren't TOS. What you're trying to do is spam TOS things in my chat.
I'm not spamming anything.
But
wait, sorry, my computer, I thought that it disconnected again. Say it again.
How come every time I encounter you in any way, you're always somehow spamming? I always get these people spamming.
Well, if you give me their usernames, I will ban them from my chat right here live.
It sounds really sus, dude. It's super sus.
What is it?
They're
typing
bots.
out.
They're bots.
Well, how could I possibly send a bot over to you? Does it even work like that? I have /ban and username ready.
I don't know, dude, but it's super sus.
Well, tell me their username and I'll ban them.
Her name is Aurora.
All right. @AU, I don't have anyone named Aurora in my chat.
Yeah, it kind of seems like maybe you or someone you know is using bots to try to get me banned in my chat, but we have Nightbot.
I don't know anyone named Aurora, and I also do not have the funds to buy any bots. All right, I'm poor.
But how come every time I ever interact with you in any way, they come? It's only with you.
It's only with me. Sorry about that, friend. False flag operations out the wazoo. Literally 1984. I don't know what to tell you, buddy.
Yeah, but it's pretty sus, dude. Come on.
It's pretty sus. Well, if there's only one bot that's spamming penises, then ban them. Otherwise, tell me the name of the people that are spamming penises in your chat, and I will ban them from my chat because I don't allow that shit in my community.
There's like 10.
All right, then tell me their usernames.
Nightbot not working? What happened to Nightbot? Isn't Nightbot supposed to...
Here, you know what? I'll go over to your chat right now, and I'll look at their usernames since you don't want to tell me them. Here.
I doubt that these are bots. These are not legitimate users. So they're bots. They're not going to be people who chat in your chat. They're just bots.
Then why are you saying that they're people that are from my chat?
I'm guessing that people bots to do this, or they have some kind of thing. I honestly don't know why. How come every time I interact with you, they come?
I feel like you realize that there's no real defense for anything that's happening in Xinjiang, and so you're trying to like construct some sort of weird thing that's happening.
But the last thing we left off on was you sounding confused about different points of our argument, just kind of. So what did you actually want to say?
Okay, that's what I was trying to ask you. I don't remember what we were talking about before the thing.
You were just basically trying to repeat some of the things I said, but out of
Okay, the
context.
Tat TV is not in my chat. All right. Well, it looks like the penises are gone. So,
Mods, please take care of it. Okay, you're watching it religiously. Okay, we got it taken care of.
does anyone in my chat remember what I was talking about before my internet cut?
You were talking, all you said was that here's the problem with our argument. You keep making arguments, and you were just repeating some of my arguments, and I was kind of confused. I think you were like, yeah, I don't remember exactly what you said.
Okay. So this is what I guess I'll just start a new line of conversation then in regards to this. I don't think
Sure.
that when we are talking about China's treatment of the Uyghur Muslims, I don't think that it is appropriate for us to try and assume that even the things that China is saying are not true, right? I think that when we look at it, we should have a consistent set of values, right? So I don't think that having a different context of human rights in the US or China is a good thing. I think that having freedom, like individual freedom to choose what you do and not to be arrested for being associated but not found guilty of being with a religious extremist movement. You know, being Muslim does not make you a terrorist, right?
Oh, well, do you not know about the mosques that are being built in China? Do you not know about the Huey Muslim?
I know about the mosques in Xinjiang that are being converted from being places of worship to bars and public toilets.
Oh, which ones?
Do you want me to give you their addresses?
Preferably, if you can go that far. Maybe anything.
There is evidence that shows that mosques are being shut down in Xinjiang. I'm taking you at your word. Would hope that you would extend to me the same courtesy, since we're not just like going to bury each other in links, right?
Well, I can't just take your word for it. It's kind of a pretty outlandish accusation that they're turning mosques into bars and toilets. Come on, man. I need some evidence for that.
All right. Well, there's two ways that this can go. We either sit here until one or both of us gets irritated enough to start screeching and give the chat some kind of entertainment, or we can table this discussion and we can both come at each other on Thursday or Friday with a bunch of sources, since right now all we can do is take each other's word for it.
You don't really have any leverage to dictate scheduling of continuing this conversation.
Well, I'm not dictating. I'm offering.
I brought you on here completely arbitrarily.
All conversations on Twitch are arbitrary. That doesn't
argue about China, and it seems like you've come up short. You said we should have values that we should apply universally, but if you don't know anything about the other country, I'm not sure what worth your values actually have, unless you think.
Because you're asking me for the exact address of mosques in China that have been shut down and turned into other things.
I said preferably. I'm saying, can you give me any evidence that corroborates that?
All right. So, copy. I'll send you this link.
Let's go ahead.
If they are too Western for you, you can let me know.
So this is something that's Xinjiang mosques renovated, equipped with better amenities. So that's a link I have. China demolishes mosque to construct public toilet in Xinjiang. This is znews.india.com. I'm not sure the validity, but I guess we'll have to go and see what they're saying.
Where did you put the link that you sent me?
Sorry?
Where did you put the link that you were sending me? Or did you not send it yet?
No, I didn't send it yet. Hold on.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Yeah. I'll send you that one. This is from CGTN. This is Chinese media. A public toilet has been erected on the site of a demolished mosque in Atush City in northwest China's Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous. Some observers believe it is a mission of the Chinese. Okay. Directive to I'm looking for primary sources. There are none. So it's just this article saying that, but I don't know where they're getting that from. Do you know where the article got it from, or did you just listen to this, whatever this article said? Oh, it says some observers are saying this. Oh,
Yeah. And yours is saying unless this is a primary source that is, just
yeah.
very interested in Xinjiang mosques.
Okay. Well,
see, this is what I'm talking about. We can just throw links at each other that we haven't vetted, or we can come back to this conversation with things that we have vetted and think are very strong evidence.
Talk about something else, and you wanted to talk about China.
Well, what did you want to talk about? Did you just want to talk about shit that happened like 2 months ago or something? Because that's boring.
Yeah, well, because you lied publicly about how you didn't see a message because it was under a red line, but a red line doesn't hide the message.
Well, I publicly said that I don't know how I missed that, and that it was a mistake, and that was on me, and I admitted to the mistake.
Also, you just didn't. Your eyes were looking there, and your cursor was hovering over it, but you just didn't see it.
I don't know why, because I messaged him before it happened, and he didn't respond to my message in time to not do the bad thing. So,
okay, well,
I've already publicly said, even in the response video, that I recognized that I have made a mistake, and I don't know how I fucked up like that. I'm willing to admit my mistakes. Of course. Goddamn stupid AT&T. I hate the goddamn world.
Cut out. Hold on. Wait for me.
Wait. All right. Am I back? Sorry.
Yeah,
I can't do anything about AT&T. Sorry about that. What what was the last thing I said?
It takes a lot of bandwidth.
I don't know what the problem is. The guy that came out to fix it said that there was a wire exposed and that he fixed it, but it still happened. So.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah. Anyways, when did I cut out?
You were talking about how, in actuality, you didn't see a message even though you saw it.
Okay, well, like I said, I've already admitted to that mistake, and I don't know how I didn't see it. It was very stupid, and I've already owned up to that. It was in my response video, which I assume you watched, probably many times.
Right. And you don't think the behavior of your friend, she was just being ableist, not racist, right?
Yeah. I'll stand by that.
Okay, so you don't think it's a little bit chauvinistic to have a Chinese person who doesn't speak English as their first language come on and then chauvinistically and rudely interrupt them, mocking their accent just because they don't speak English as a first language?
Well, I don't think that she was mocking their accent. I think she was mocking the fact that they were stuttering.
Yeah. Well, do you know that there's an uptick in anti-Asian violence and racism in the United States right now?
Sure do. Went over that on my stream.
So you don't think that that behavior would be considered by many Asian people to be chauvinistic and racist?
I think that this is really rich coming from someone that was being highly transphobic to no comment chick.
Was I being transphobic to her? Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I think that it was really, really easily identifiable as, you saying something like, what was it? These people don't have to dress all gross and weird and stuff. You don't have, just because you're gay doesn't mean that you have to dress weird. I think that's really f***ed up, right?
Well,
kind of sounds like a lot of right-wing rhetoric, which is maybe why I called you a fascist.
So I said leftists are trying to use LGBT people as their excuse for, and I used the example of the Chaz Mugshot. I didn't say gay people dress badly and they should dress how I want them to. I actually said most gay people that I know in real life clean up pretty well and they dress
this is literally what right-wingers say.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, literally. Why do they have to shove the gayness in my face? Well, I know a couple of gay people and they act like normal human beings. All these people are degenerates.
Sondsol, I didn't mention their gayness is being rubbed in my face. I said their leftist mental derangement, which has nothing to do with being gay.
Yeah, I mean, there are also people that dog whistle about, it's just the leftist mental illness that leads to people being trans. So, I mean, it's really hard to understand what you're talking about when you're using language identical to fascists.
Sure. So have you seen the Chaz Mugshot? Can someone link it in the chat? Someone link it to me.
So you're going to take a mugshot and then base your entire.
Well, I want your opinion. These people look like they're
just seems a little bit. It just seems a little bit Nazbol to try and dictate what people should or shouldn't wear. You know.
Oh, you're talking about the Nazbol. So I guess you're an expert on what Nazbol means.
Well, I know a little bit about it, enough to be able to identify Nazbol type rhetoric. Yeah.
Oh, okay, sure. So what's a Nazbol? I'm curious. Educate.
You know, yeah, it's like a little bit of Nazi, a little bit of socialist, but it's usually socialist for only a pretty select group of people.
And where did that come from? Where did that word come from?
I don't think that matters whatsoever.
Oh, so
are you saying National Bolshevik, or are you asking like who invented the term?
No, I'm just saying like where did that Nazbol thing come from? Because it kind of sounds like you're just making up your own view of what that means that has nothing to do with reality.
So I can describe a Nazbol. I don't know what it is exactly that you're like asking me.
So to you, a Nazbol is anyone who's a Nazi and also a leftist or something?
It's basically like a fascist that has leftist ideals, but for a very specific group of people, or like a much smaller group of people than I would consider acceptable, right?
Who falls under the definition of one besides me, of course?
I would say someone like Eric Stryker. Who's the other one? Allsup. I think that these people are Nazbols.
Oh, so they know Edward Lamanov and all that stuff?
They might.
Oh, they
Caleb
might.
Malpin, probably.
So do you know Edward Lamanov?
I don't think that it matters whether I've read a book about this or someone's ideology or whoever created the term. I think that is a deflection because you actually don't have any way to argue against it.
But I thought you were an authority on what Nazbol means, so surely you know.
No, I never said that, did I? Okay,
so you're just using words which you don't know.
Well, I feel comfortable enough to call you a Nazi, Nazbol, a fascist, all sorts of things. I think that people like you are a direct harm to the left, and if you ever gained power, a lot of people like No Comment Chick, probably wouldn't have any rights because your selection for people for whether they're degenerates or whatever is really weird.
Right, but you're using words which you would admit you don't know what they even mean. So,
which word?
Nazbol.
I've already explained what a Nazbol is.
You've explained what a Nazbol is?
Okay, well, give me your definition. If mine's not adequate enough for you, right?
Well,
if we have to throw around definitions all day, then this is going to be a very fun conversation, but let's go.
It's not a matter of definitions. It's just using words it seems like you made up, or people you know made up, that have no bearing on reality. The Nazbol Party was formed in Russia and eventually became part of the liberal opposition to Putin. They were considered left-wing, so much to the point where I don't like them, actually. I consider them anarchists. I consider them punk rock anarchists, but they had LGBT people in their party. Edward Lamanov, the leader of the Nazbols, was himself bisexual, and he called for the abolition of the family and the Russian nation itself. So it really sounds like you know what you're talking about when you say Nazbol, when Nazbols, as they actually existed, were more similar to you than me. I'm way more conservative than Nazbols are personally, in terms of my personal
so you're admitting to being conservative. Really weird that, huh?
Well, I'm not a conservative in terms of imposing it on others or judging others on that basis, but
well, you were definitely judging No Comment Chick on how she dressed. Is it because you found her to be like really pretty or something? Is that something is that the problem? She just did something to your pee-pee that was really weird, or?
I'm not sure if that's a word I would use to describe her, but I think I would just say that it seems like people like her are just put up an edgy appearance in general that has nothing actually to do with necessarily being LGBT. And actually, probably most LGBT people have nothing to do with that. It's mainly just this kind of punk rock leftism, which
wait, are trans people or LGBT people, are they not allowed to dress like emos?
Well, it's not a matter of who's allowed to dress like who.
Well, it seems like that's what you're implying, that it's not a part of being a LGBT person that you dress with this aesthetic, right?
does her being trans have to do? What does being trans have to do with looking like a maniac in the Chaz Mugshot?
Well, that given the words that you use, very very much that is a you thing. All right.
But why?
I don't
I
think that
didn't
there's anything.
trans people. You did, not me. Did you know that there's
you were the one that was talking about LGBT people don't need to dress like this and dress like maniacs when they're in Chaz and shit. So you're the one that brought that up. You're the one that connected it to trans identity, my guy.
Did you know that there's a few trans people in our community, at least that I know of?
Wow, there's also trans Nazis. I don't think that means anything.
So if it doesn't mean anything, why are you bringing it up?
What? what the is that response? So I say you say weird things about trans people and the way that they dress, and you mimic right-wing talking points, and then you respond with, "Well, I'm not actually talking about trans people. You're talking about trans people. I was directly talking about something that you had said on a previous stream," and then you deflect back to the fact that actually I have trans friends, which is a hilarious response given how much we make fun of people that say, well, actually I have a black friend and he says I can say the N-word. That's the kind of defense that you're doing right there. And then and then you try to say that I'm the one that has the problem with trans people, actually, because there are people that are trans and have like really negative views on politics and social issues, people like Blair White, so I think it's really funny that this is the line of conversation that just happened.
Are you done yet, or?
Oh, I'm waiting for you, buddy. Go ahead.
Well, I was just wondering why you're bringing up trans people and what I specifically said.
Well, because we were talking about Nazbols, right? And they're leftists that are conservatives, right?
People what did I say about trans people?
Oh my God. Am I in a time loop? Because we've literally just went over this like seconds ago.
Go over it. What did I say about them?
That, they LGBT people, they don't have to dress that way, they're just like trying to get attention or whatever. Like I know LGBT people, I know gay people that don't dress that way. They're not trying to get attention, etc., etc., etc.
Here's what I actually said. Yeah. I said the Chaz people are mentally deranged, and there's nothing about being LGBT that it justifies them using them as a shield, because if not probably the majority of LGBT people have nothing to do with this derangement. I'm not prescriptively saying...
What derangement could you possibly get from...
Sondsol, I need to remind you whose Discord you're in. And I can
okay, well, I mean, if you want to, like, mute me, that's your own, like, little baby boy thing to do.
Why are you talking over me? I let you finish your sentence, so let me finish
because mine. I don't understand what you're saying.
What I'm saying is basically very simple. I wasn't prescriptively saying what transgender or gay people should be doing. I was disentangling leftist derangement from LGBT people.
Wait, are you saying that you don't consider yourself a leftist?
No, but I'm critiquing leftist derangement, which I do think is a real thing.
And what would that be?
I think there's a lot of leftist derangement that gets too caught up in hating the world and trying to negate everything and be against society and be against the people and adopt these antisocial tendencies that basically alienate you from the majority of the people in the country.
What kind of antisocial?
Well, the type of demeanor and attitude and behavior of the people, for example, at Chaz, where they killed 2 unarmed black kids, and no one even remembers it to this day.
Well, it wasn't the Chaz people, from what I understand, right?
Well, it was actually. It was.
It was the anarchists that killed the black people, and not the neo-Nazis that drove through there and like did a drive-by.
Picking things up. It was Chaz leftists who killed those 2 black teenagers.
All right. Well, and you're saying that because of that, what? That
well, it's a sign that there's a deep level of leftist derangement, that it's becoming a circus and it's becoming a form of psychosis. They tried to create Chaz and it ended in a psychotic massacre of 2 unarmed black students, when the whole point of Chaz in the first place was to supposedly protest police brutality of unarmed black people and black people in general. They ended up doing the very thing they were trying to protest, and no one remembers it to this day. And it's very strange that you're trying to skirt around and deny
no
this.
I don't I have never heard this thing that you're talking about. People in my in my chat are, you know, saying the Republican talking points again, because this is literally stuff that. Do you know who Rob Noor is?
Is that relevant to what I just said, or?
Yeah, because you sound just like him right now.
Well, is what I'm saying wrong?
I am almost certain what you're saying is wrong. That you're saying that people like lynched black people in Chaz?
No, they did kill them. I didn't say they lynched them. You're putting words in my mouth. They did kill them.
But you're saying that they killed them because they were black? I don't understand what the argument is here.
Well,
I don't see any larger.
You're making comparisons between random conservatives. I can compare.
Well, you're comparing random events and assigning it to like the left-leaning movement in this country. I don't understand it.
There's a level of left-wing derangement that's thrown under the rug and hidden and occluded, and leftists are in denial about it.
Okay, so besides this one little instance, what other kind of leftist derangement do you see happening?
I suggest talking to people of color who feel that white leftists are no better than right-wing.
Well, I talk to a lot of people of color. Trust me.
I suggest you talk to more to gain more perspective and enrich your perspective.
How many people of color do I need to talk to?
Well, I think you need to address the widespread concern that white leftists are no different than white rightists, according to them.
I've never heard this on my side of the political aisle.
Oh, well, it sounds like you're filling yourself in a white echo chamber. And
no, it seems like you're echoing conservative talking points again.
It's kind of bizarre that you call me a Nazbol and yet you share the same colorblindness of supposed Nazbols, as leftists call them.
What color blindness have I?
That all of the people of color who are sharing their concerns that white leftists are no better than white rightists.
What about all the people of color that are that agree with me on most things, that don't think that, you know?
Well, I'm curious to see what they have to say about the several people of color who argue that white leftists are no better than white rightists.
Well,
in their experience,
I feel like the only people I've ever seen talk about this are the straw man of what the lefties on Tumblr were, and the only people that ever talked about those people like this with any amount of seriousness, like they were an actual threat to our civilization, were people like Sargon of Akkad and other right-wingers and fascists.
Well, so it's interesting how selectively you're going to choose that I'm a Nazbol because I'm against American and white supremacist chauvinism, but when it comes to white leftists being the ones criticized, suddenly you're willing
because
to
I think that this isn't a major issue, and it's not nearly as prevalent as you seem to be making it out to be, not by a long shot.
Okay, well, that's your white view, and your view
is
noted.
White. He called me white, guys. That means that I can't argue anymore.
Well, I didn't say that. I said that is your white view, and it's no good.
It's no good.
Well, it's one view, and it's not the only view.
Sure.
And it's informed by your background, Sondsol.
Sure.
Okay.
Anything else you want to go over?
Well, you're the one who wanted to, Well, we have people actually who are messaging me that they're in China and they want to talk to you. Do you want to talk to them?
I mean, we could.
All right. Where are they? Who are they? Wait, they're gone now. Hold on. Is it? Oh, it's this guy. Hey, are you the guy in China? Tell them to get in the show queue. The red comrades in China. They're not in show queue. Where you at? Which?
I guess they got bored listening to my white voice.
Wu T, what's your Discord name? Alright, well, I guess they're gone now.
Okay.
Well,
if there's nothing else.
So, I guess you weren't really successful in backing up any of the things you were saying about me?
I don't think that you were successful in backing up any of the things that you said about me either. I'm not convinced.
What did I say?
I'm Western chauvinist, white. grifter, whatever I am to you.
Well, calling you a grifter implies that you're actually successful, but you're on a 20 viewer Andy, so I'm not worried about that. Don't worry.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything else?
Stalin was a pedophile.
Oh, prove it, please.
Prove he's not.
Well, you're a pedophile.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Prove it.
Prove you're not. Prove you're not.
Oh no, my friend. Oh no, my friend. You were the one that made the claim.
Yeah, but you're the one who made the claim about Stalin.
Yeah, but I don't feel like defending that point because I am playing a video game and I don't want to find the links right now. So
I don't feel like defending it either.
Okay.
All right. So you agree you're a pedophile, basically?
No, I didn't say I agreed with that at all.
Sounds like you are.
What would you say if I called you a pedophile?
Well, it would be as much worth as you calling Stalin one.
He said oh wait, people in my chat are saying that you said you were going to Polar's world? And you said like you were going to Polar and...
But I have evidence of that whole discussion. Someone was talking and
well, why haven't you posted it, InferRed?
I can post this if your chat demands it. I can post this part. Polar's world was supposed...
Because I posted the entire recording of what I had that night, and for some reason...
Can you let me finish?
For some reason, you kept on saying you had the whole conversation, and yet for some reason you weren't able to post anything. So what was it? Did you have the full thing or no?
Let me address this one first.
Yeah,
Polar's
sure.
world was talking without me knowing who they were at all. I didn't know anything about them, and I just said,
And then you said you were gonna fuck a minor. How horrible.
No, I didn't. I said I was gonna fuck your girl. Then someone told me Polar's world was 17, and I said, how did I know they were 17?
Yeah.
That's exactly what
happened.
Prove it. I can prove it if I really need to. I can prove it.
Then prove it.
I don't think people are gonna believe it though. It's so stupid. But I can. If enough people bother me about it, I can post it.
Okay.
I might be able to, unless it's TOS. If I said maybe some TOS things in that call. So I don't know.
Yeah, there were a couple of people, but
I might not show it on stream.
I ended stream right after the raid into no comment chick, so I don't have anything that happened after the raid. So if you have the rest of that call, I would love it. That would be really fantastic. I've been asking for it for a while. You threatened me with it for a while, and then you never posted it after threatening me with it. So it makes me feel like you don't actually have any longer.
We didn't post it because we only had your stream in its entirety, but we didn't have what happened after.
Then why did you keep on saying that you had the full thing?
Because we did.
So you did, but now you don't?
No, we still have it, but we still have it.
But it's the same thing that I posted.
But we didn't catch what happened after you ended the stream. Is the problem.
Well, right. Neither did I because I ended the stream.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, they're
a little bit
here.
of miscommunication.
We have people from China that are here. So. This person's actually living in China right now. Hello, veggies. Hey, what's up?
Hi. Can you guys hear?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I can hear you just fine. How's it going?
Okay. There's one more person. Comrade selected needs to be put in as well.
Okay, I'll bring him. Here he is.
Okay.
He's here.
Hello?
Hello?
Okay. Now I'm working.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, I can hear you too. How's it going, guys?
We're doing good.
Glad to hear it. All right. What did I get wrong? Which part was incorrect in your eyes? Everything. Which part of everything?
Everything.
Because there were some things that Chinese government admitted to, and
yeah, I can tell you what they admitted to.
Sure.
And it doesn't meet the requirements. The most that it meets was that basically the party sent cadres when they investigated the decades-long terrorist attacks that had been happening So they wanted to track the source of it, right? So they tracked the source of the terrorist attacks, and it was coming from Wahhabists. And they said, well, are these Wahhabists, coming from outside of China or inside of China? And it was a little bit of both. There were some that were trying to get in. Some were Uyghur, some were Turkish, some were not. There were Uyghur Muslims from China that had left, that had been radicalized. This goes back to the 90s. Did you read anything about that? About Uyghurs that are in Guantanamo Bay right now, because the ETIM, the East Turkestan Islamic movement, was the original jihadist group that was committing attacks, and they were also coming from Afghanistan, where they were trained. So there's a history there in the 90s. And then when the attacks in the late 90s started happening, the mainstream media kind of ignored things, because around that time there was the things going on in Yugoslavia. There were a lot of other things going on. So these are things that flew under the radar in the West.
I don't think that any news organization. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Here, because there needs to be that needs to be addressed first. Go through the
But I don't understand why these things are relevant to.
No. This. Okay, I know what you're talking about, because whenever I first started hearing about this and learning about it, I mean, I live in China, so if China's being accused of committing genocide, I want to know what's going on, because whenever I moved here, I didn't know anything about it, right? So, before I came here, I didn't really have a strong, I'm a tanky stance or anything like that. I had been an anarcho-communist for most of my adult life, so, I came here to escape poverty. I came here to do something with my life. I didn't care what country I went to, but I decided to come to China because it was my best option. So I looked into it, because that's what you do when you hear the mainstream media talk. It's like, this is probably not the truth. It's coming from the Americans, because I'm from Texas. I know how America
same, bro.
is. Yeah. So you know what I mean. So
well, I would take exception to some of that, but we can continue.
About 2 years ago, the most you can accuse China of is extrajudicial detainment by saying you are required to go to school. Basically, they went to these poor villages. With their party cadres. They sent the party cadres in, and they said, they went door to door, talking to the neighbors, the friends, the family, the community members, where they found actual terrorist cells. So they found the terrorist cells. They found the sources of attacks in Xinjiang, the Uyghur autonomous zone, or Uyghur. They found it in Xinjiang.
Are you saying? Wait, I'm sorry. Did you say that all? Yeah, go ahead.
What I'm saying is that Xinjiang is called the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region, because they are the majority. They're the majority population there. So there were Han, and there were Hui, which is another ethnic group of Muslims here. I know a lot of Hui and Uyghur people here I'm in northeast China. So, I go to halal restaurants and things like that nearby my place of employment. So, I wanted to find out is this really happening where I live?
Really quick, I need to clarify something really quick. All right. So you're saying, number one, that you're saying that they are extrajudicially putting people into vocational schools.
Okay, so let me go through because I can send you the link to this article.
Well, that's a yes or no question.
This is a journalist. No.
Sondsol, wait, can I step in for a second?
But I do want him to answer that question. Yes or no?
I actually study education. I'm an education major here in China.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to correct you on something.
Yeah.
Yes, everyone is required to have an education. They are definitely entitled to an education here.
Okay. Is
So I
is
don't
it
want you
appropriate?
twisting what he
No.
said.
Well,
Exactly.
extrajudicially
Because
means
you're
outside of the
putting-
law.
putting-
That's literally what it means.
extrajudicial, which is what, because this is coming from this journalist that has been there for years.
Okay.
He went to cover this, and he wrote an article for CGTN since he had been there for a number of years, and so these were based on his observations as a journalist. And there's been a lot of journalists, and on both sides of the issues, where they said, no, we don't think China did wrong, or China did some wrong, but it's not my country. I don't make the laws here, but it's being exaggerated. Everyone uses WeChat here, Weixin, and
Uyghurs are banned from using that. Yeah.
There's an applet that translates Uyghur and other ethnic minority languages into Mandarin. They are not required to speak Mandarin, but since this country is a majority Mandarin-speaking country, it is advantageous for them to learn that language.
Just because it's advantageous doesn't mean that it should be mandatory or that people should be arrested and put into vocational schools
Sansol,
against
wait.
their. Well,
No,
hold
no,
on.
no, no, no.
But what I'm saying here, even if I can grant you guys everything that you're saying, I understand. I understand. I understand. But what I'm not saying. What I'm saying, really quick, I understand what you're saying. What I'm saying.
Yes.
Yeah, well, yes, I would consider that genocide because I also think that the genocide that happened in the because the same thing happened in the U.S. where we put a bunch of indigenous tribes into fucking
actually,
schools.
whoa,
No,
whoa,
it's not the same.
Sansol,
It's not the
wait,
same.
Comrade
Why?
Collected,
It's not the
let me
same.
let me
From
say
an
this
historical
because, like I
and
said, I'm
material
in China.
perspective, it
I
is not the
studied
same.
education back in the U.S. and I study it here in China.
Mhm.
Okay, let me school you a little bit. Okay, first of all.